Toss a coin to your witcher. Yeah. Okay, well, as you can see, I'm just a little bit obsessed with The Witcher. And who isn't these days, right? Making sure those guys are in the shot over there. I think they are, yeah. I mean, I showed them off anyway. But yeah, so quick book review today. I just wanted to talk about The Witcher since it's so ubiquitous in pop culture right now with the Netflix show, the video game. The Witcher 3 was out for a while, and that was a super popular video game. I still haven't played it. I still haven't played any of the Witcher video games yet. I need to get on that. I have, however, read the first couple of books, including this one, The Last Wish, which is the one that I'm going to talk about right now. Just some quick thoughts about it. Also, if you want to see me look more like Geralt, yes, I did recently get a haircut, so like, here's a picture of me who wore it better. I posted on Facebook like a year ago, haha. Yeah, The Last Wish is the first book in the Witcher series. Now, the first two books, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, are more of like, there's like a subtitle that says like Tales of the Witcher on some editions of this book, and that's because it doesn't really start the proper saga, like the main storyline revolving around Geralt and Ciri and like the kingdoms and like, you know, the whole destined, you know, like ruler type of thing. These are just kind of like one-off short stories, more or less, about revolving around the character of the Witcher and the monsters he encounters. It's more of like a monster of the week sort of deal, which I think is fascinating because I'm really into like short stories just as a medium anyway. And it really is like all about character building, world building. Geralt meeting, you know, Dandelion, aka Jaskier, the bard guy who he's friends with. Same character, he's just called Dandelion in the book translation. How he meets Yennefer, how he is bound to her, how she becomes like the love of his life, essentially. And really, some of the stories do build toward how he meets Ciri, how she becomes his destined pupil / child. It's really present in one of the stories in this book. But, so each story contributes a little bit to the overall plot. But if you're not familiar with The Witcher in general, like the lore, what is a Witcher, what does this mean? It's a fantasy series, high fantasy, swords and magic and dragons and things like that. But The Witcher, Geralt, he's basically a superhero in a fantasy world, which is kind of funny because Henry Cavill plays him in the show, and he played Superman, so he's always a superhero. He's just born to play it. But to me, I mean, Henry Cavill is Geralt, hands down. It's just like the role he was born to play. But we're talking about the book, not the show. Yeah, Witchers are supposed to be like these super infused warriors who are, you know, part of like this kind of clan, or this, I don't know what to call it. It's basically a family, but it's an order of warriors who are meant to go be protectors of society. They're vigilantes basically, but they're sort of organized and respected and feared because they're monster hunters, and they have special powers that have basically, they've gone through like this rigorous training that has like killed their emotions essentially, and they have these, they've like ingested like this the super soldier serum or something like that. I don't know, that's what it reminds me of. They're not Captain America, but that allows them to drink these potions that give them like temporary magic powers, that like power up boosts sort of things while they're fighting, that a normal human can't withstand. So Geralt is like the best of his kind, one of the last of his kind. Back home where he comes from, there's a bunch of other Witchers, but he is the most elite out of all of them, basically, and he's really the only one left wandering the land, really being active. So he's kind of feared and builds up a bad reputation, even though he's just trying to, you know, help humanity, essentially, help society. But he has his own set of rules, own way of serving justice. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of the premise, the outline for each of these stories, and how he goes about like the places and the people he encounters along the way. As I said, he does pick up friends such as Dandelion the Bard, who's his unlikely foil of a friend, This is the illustrated version, so there's a lot of really cool illustrations. So the front illustration is really cool, but like there's stuff in there, like illustrations of the characters and things like that. I don't know who the illustrator is. The author is Andrzej Sapkowski, who's a Polish author, by the way. Really talented guy. I think he wasn't really a fan of the video game adaptations and what they did for his book, even though they did kind of propel it into mainstream popularity. But I think he is a fan of the show, which has even further propelled the show into popularity. So that's good. So like there's even a quote from Geralt on the inside, like under the dust jacket here. People like to invent monsters and monstrosities, then they seem less monstrous themselves. I forgot the period there, but that's a really good quote. It's kind of really glosses over the entire theme of the series, which is the real monsters are not just simple monsters. They are people, people who do evil to one another. But yeah, so some of the stories, here's Dandelion. In the show he doesn't have the bard's hat, but in the book he does. Yeah, I mean, so some of the stories in this book, they're all based on like fairy tales. Like I think the first one is based on like Snow White, but she becomes like, instead of being like a princess in the woods with the dwarves, she becomes like the captain of a dwarven army and becomes like corrupted, hence the whole Butcher of Blaviken situation. You know, Geralt is driven to like have to wipe out the entire force, and after they basically instigated conflict, which is usually how it goes. Geralt doesn't kill without meaning. He doesn't fight or kill without, you know, there being an actual threat. And usually those threats are unforeseen by people around who think that, oh, well, that was just a normal person. And he sees the real monstrosities beyond just the obvious monsters that people see. Geralt always has a horse named Roach. He gets new horses throughout the course of his career, but he always names them Roach for some reason. I forget why. I don't know if I got up to the point where he like says why. I forget. It's been a while since I actually read the second one, like I forget which book he says it in, but he just always has a book name. A horse named Roach, which kind of says a lot about his personality. Not too sentimental, but he is actually very close with his horse, whichever iteration of it is. There's a Beauty and the Beast story in this book, which was actually featured in season 2, where Ciri is with him, but in the book, Ciri's not there in the scene, and he goes to the lodge house where the Beast lives alone, and again, who's the real monster in that situation? There's a Beast who seems like, oh, he's actually a gentle beast, and he doesn't act like a beast, he's just cursed, and he's the victim there, but is he really? It kind of twists and turns that whole trope back on itself like twice over, because his prisoner is, well, let's just say not quite a princess in the same vein as Belle, but still perhaps the victim herself. So, really beautiful illustrations in black and white and red. Black and white and red all over. That's the answer to some sort of dad joke riddle thing. Timeless. But yeah, there's a lot of good short stories here. Again, one of the short stories, I guess I'm calling them short stories. They're chapters of the book, but for all intents and purposes, in this book, they're short stories. Here's Geralt and basically the people who become Ciri's parents, and their whole story is one of the chapters of this book. And how he ends up being promised, how she becomes his destined gift, or how Ciri becomes his destiny. That's all in this book, and so it really does set up for the saga. But yeah, and then of course how he meets Yennefer, which is this random series of mishaps involving a genie or a djinn. Here's a fawn. It's like a satyr. I don't know. There's a whole scene about that. And yeah, I don't know, not much else to say. I just wanted to show off this book. There's Yen smell of lilacs and gooseberries. You can smell it on the page. That would be funny if that new book smell was lilac and gooseberries. She has violet eyes. You can't really see. They should have just colored just her eyes in there, but they didn't. They gotta stick with the regular color palette, I guess. But yeah. So anyway, yeah. I really enjoyed The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. I feel like those two books kind of go in one volume. I just wanted to show you the illustrated version of this. Maybe they'll come out with an illustrated version of Sword of Destiny next, because together those books kind of made up season 1 of the show, and season 2 of the show is mostly based on Blood of Elves, which is the first book in the saga. And like I said, they borrowed a little bit from this and Sword of Destiny in season 2 as well. So yeah, books are really good. I definitely recommend them. I listened to them on audiobook as well, so really good reading on the audiobook, charming narrator, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, The Witcher, there's so many different ways to enjoy The Witcher, and the book, it might be my favorite way. The show is definitely working its way up there, and I still need to play the games. So yeah, check out The Witcher, toss a coin to me, I don't know.